Well,
can you all hear me?
we can all hear you.
Okay, well.
It's a
Here
great
we
day in
are.
paradise.
It's really welcome to A Pinch of Basile. I am your host. Again, if you're joining us on Facebook, thank you so much. But don't forget, you can call in at 844-790-8255. That's 844-790-8255. Besides our live stream on Facebook, you can listen on the online. Well, you can listen online at americamatters.us. That's americamatters.us. And on the TuneIn app from your phone or a tablet, just search America Matters. You don't have any excuse for not listening or watching us. What the hell's wrong with you? Although you can't watch us right this very second, because it seems that the gremlins, again, from Vegas, have followed me here.
Well, they can see Jan beautifully.
Yeah. And I'm here with my lovely co-host, Janice Hermson. And, of course, we couldn't do without our awesome engineer, Craig Moss, who is to blame for us not having any...
Come on. Come on.
Okay, show's over. Everybody go home.
Good night, folks. Good night. I'll see y'all later.
That's right. That's right.
I am in a secret location with my favorite backdrop behind me.
Which you can't see now because you're not on Skype yet. That's
right. So imagine, if you will, a beautiful blanket that is... If I only told you what Craig was doing right now, I have no secrets anymore.
I was wondering why you were laughing.
Well, he can see me. He can see me trying to do to get his laptop open.
Gotcha.
Or his programs open.
I love my people, folks. I love my people. Anyway, you can follow me on Basile Fans on Facebook. That's BASILEFANS on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Please do so. All right? Now, listen, I'm being serious. We have an incredible guest today. I really, Janice, you know me. I love history, and to me, history is like the thing that drives me, because history always has a way of repeating itself if we don't correct our things. And this next guest that we have, Chris Formant, author of Saving Washington, the forgotten story about the Maryland 400 and the Battle of Brooklyn. Now, usually there's a Battle of Brooklyn that's involved when I have to park my car, but this is a true story. Chris is a student of history and a former top executive of a multi-billion-dollar global business and now technology company CEO. So go ahead, type your questions in the comments, or you can call in or text them to us. Janice, what is that text number, please?
It is 775-237-2266. So there you go.
That's
Please
right. And
text
you can
us.
also call in at 844-790-8255. Talk to Chris on the bottom half of the hour, and then you have me. So this is going to be just a wonderful time for us to go ahead and do this. I'm really looking forward to having him on there. We have future guest Harry Basile, who is the producer of The Laugh Factory, who books all the great talent, like myself, and other people, Pamela Pappas, who actually climbed Mount Everest. And I'll tell you what, man, what a bunch of great guests that we've had and that we're going to continue to have. And I'm so happy and proud of the actual work that we've done trying to bring the entertainment to you people who are now listening but will be watching as well. So I'm just really, really proud of that. I got to be honest with you. And then we're going to wind up. And how much time do we have? Because I don't even have the clock.
Oh, that's right. Well, you still have, 2, 3, almost 3 minutes. 2.5.
Okay. Well, listen,
Thereabouts.
For those of you also, we're going to talk about Janice's and Craig's opinion of my show when I played in Reno. I really want to know.
And he wants to know publicly. Can you believe that?
Holy
Ooh.
cow.
I want to know publicly.
Craig. He's brave.
Or something.
And then
something.
Don't forget, folks, I will be this Friday, July 5th, at the Supreme Convention, the Supreme AHEPA, the American Hellenic Educational Progressive Association convention in Chicago. Hosting the banquet on the dais will be our president, George Lucas, and, of course, the new Archbishop, Elivadoropoulos. And he will be there with us as well. And I'm very, very excited to meet them. And don't forget, July 12th and the 13th, Cosby's Comedy Club in Newport News, Virginia. Folks, I'm going to be there, all right? So, listen, Saturday already sold out. That July 13th is sold out. July 12th, we have a couple more, and I think we're going to open up some new shows there, too. So make sure you get your tickets, and we're going to be back in just a moment. How much time do we have?
Oh, you've got a minute and a half. You can't close it up yet.
A minute and a half.
A minute and a half. See, you just have no idea when you're sitting over there without a clock in front of you. Isn't that amazing?
It is amazing.
Yep.
And I got to be honest with you.
Oh,
He just
hung up.
He's got to be honest with me.
Well, we thank everybody for joining us on A
Why don't
Pinch
we go
of
ahead and go
Basil.
to that break that he was
Yeah,
talking
maybe
about?
we will take that break a little bit early today. And we'll get Basil back on the phone. And then if you have questions or comments or whatever, we will take them from you. This is A Pinch of Basil. Basil will be right back.
To join the conversation, call 844-790-TALK. That's 844-790-8255. Now, back to the show.
Welcome back. Basil, are you there?
I am here. Are we back?
Yahoo, we're back. You probably didn't know that yet.
We are back. You are listening and even watching all around the world right now. You can go to the TuneIn app and find America Matters or listen live every week at americamatters.us. If you miss any part of this show, like we have, the first 15 minutes.
I was
you
here.
can find them
Hey,
on the
I didn't miss
podcast
the
under
first part of the
site,
show.
A
Wait a
Pinch
minute.
of
Wait a minute. I didn't miss the first part of the show. What are you doing?
Okay, or on Facebook at Basil Fans. I have some, I guess you want to go along with this, Janice. Do we want to go ahead along with this?
You want to ask about what we thought of your show? Is that what you want?
Well, I would like to see what.
Hey,
Craig's
there you are. You're on
professional-
camera now, bud.
Yeah, you can see me. I'd like to know Craig's professional opinion of my show, him being an all-around funny guy and everything, and with worldwide credits to his name. And I don't want to see what he thought about my show.
I actually loved it.
Uh-oh.
What?
Uh-oh. We're in
Yeah.
trouble now.
What happened? What did I pay you $100 without me knowing?
No.
What happened?
No, and I even boxed up your merch after the show after you were done selling and got it ready for you because I like the show that much.
You like the show that much, and I boxed your crap up so we can get the hell out of there. Oh, man, it was fun being with you guys, and I want to thank everyone from Reno who came to Silver Legacy at the wonderful Laugh Factory. The Laugh Factory employees were fantastic. The people at the casino were fantastic. And, of course, all of you made it even that much better. It was a pleasure being on the radio with you guys for 3 solid days, and that was a lot of fun. And I want to thank Al Kaz for doing a great job opening for me. And really have. And Dave was a great opener as well. So I want to thank you. And thanks for coming out, guys.
Yeah, don't forget Adam, because when Dave wasn't there, Adam was there.
Yeah,
On that
Adam
final
did
Friday,
fill
yeah.
in for us on that Sunday. He sure did. And he was great, too. It was a lot of fun.
Well,
What did you like most about my show? Was it my beautiful, face?
What'd you think of his open?
Yeah, did you like my opening?
Yeah, that was a little rough for me. It was a little
see, I
Andrew
told
Dice
you,
Clay.
Basil.
It was a little Andrew Dice Clay for me.
Come on, but the switch at the end was great. You have to admit
Yes.
That was very good. That part I like.
No, it was a lot of fun, and it was nice to have you guys there. It's always tough to perform in front of people that you know and that you really have an association with and a friendship with. And then it's always tough for me to say, "Oh, did you like the show? Did you enjoy it? What did you think?"
It's like rehearsing new material in front of them, right? You don't do that.
Yeah, you really, because I'm in a different mode, right?
Well,
I'm
because
not the same
sometimes that material's about them.
Nah, you wouldn't do that, would you, Basil?
mode. Never.
Not you.
Never. ever do that. That would be wrong.
Yeah, sure.
That's why he didn't bring up his family the whole show,
That's right.
except for mom and dad.
It is very difficult to wear a wedding band and to say, "Hey, I'm single."
Guys do it all the time.
True. What can I tell you, man? It is what it is. But every woman, I guess, a dream would be to have someone like me in their life. And I'm sorry, there's only so much Basile to go around.
Oh my.
We can always grow some more.
Okay.
Clone him.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Can you imagine having 2 of Basile?
Shall I only say no comment?
I think in this case, yeah, you should.
'Kay.
Anyway, oh my God, we have some independent celebration fun facts that you may not remember from your school days.
Yeah.
And I always like doing some type of trivia. And of course, Janice is my trivia host, Teth, who will be going through some of that wonderful material. Janice, what do you have for me?
Do you want trivia or you want some fun facts about the 4th of July that you might have forgotten?
I would like a little bit of both. I really
Okay,
would. We have a lot of time. We have 7:40.
You can see the clock now, so you're excited.
I'm very excited.
Yeah, I can tell.
Doesn't take much.
Still
All
bitter
right.
about that opening. Okay.
There you go. There you go. All right. So this is sort of trivia along with the history that you might have forgotten about the 4th of July. So
Okay.
do you know when it actually happened? It really didn't happen on the 4th of July that they voted for American independence. Do you know what date they did?
Well, they did vote on it that day, but they didn't sign that day.
Not on the 4th. They didn't vote on the 4th either.
They didn't?
Mm-mm.
Because there's some
No.
signers on the 4th.
Well, they said it was the 4th, but there was
Well,
only
you gotta-
one, maybe 2. I've gotten conflicting facts about that as far as whether it was 1 or 2 that signed on the 4th. But in reality, it was voted on a different day. Actually, it was
Really?
voted on today, on the 2nd. The Continental
Really?
Congress voted for American independence on July 2nd, 1776. So
And why for God? God
Yeah.
knows why. But
why
did
isn't
you
that
guys
the
do this
day,
before?
that we shoot fire into the sky? Well, it was 2 days later that Congress fully accepted the Declaration of Independence. So there you go. That's the reason why.
And then the final signature wasn't until week or two later.
August
Or
2nd.
weeks later,
Yep, August 2nd. It was accepted on July 4th, but it wasn't officially assigned by every member until nearly a month later on August 2nd, 1776, even though they dated it the 4th of July. So how about
Wow.
that? Well, I thought it
Wow.
was interesting. Maybe it's not all that interesting, but,
So Tom Cruise's movie, Born on the 4th of July, was just a total.
Yeah.
It was a sham.
Yeah.
Yeah. So here's a kind of a fun fact. When did the White House start to celebrate Independence Day? What
I
year
bet
did they
it was
start?
like 1876.
Oh, well, not 100 years, but it was 1801.
Oh, wow. Okay.
1801. So good call. And
Do you know why that was?
Do I know why that was? Should I know why?
Yeah.
I don't. So
Because-
tell
Let
me
me see.
why.
Hold on.
Because the White House wasn't built until 1792.
Yeah, but they
So
could
they
have
couldn't-
come to the
and-
party before
They coulda-
1801.
yeah.
Come on. That's a long time.
But they couldn't, celebrate
Yeah.
before 1792. So
Yes.
But you know what? The other thing is, too, don't forget also that the White House was burnt down in the War of 1812.
Yeah.
Okay, so it was burnt down by the British in the War of 1812. So,
they had no reason to celebrate.
yeah, no, actually, it's kind of interesting. Go ahead and read some of the information about how they rebuilt the White House. And when Jackie Kennedy wound up doing that whole remodel of the actual White House, that they found actual burnt timbers and stuff like that from that period. It was actually
I think I
pretty
remember
interesting.
reading something about that.
Yeah, it was actually pretty interesting about that. So I always like the history of.
Now, is that
about-
when they put the... No, they didn't put... They had the pool in there from Roosevelt's day, or not Roosevelt.
Woodrow Wilson?
Who was the one that was confined to the wheelchair?
Oh,
FDR.
That was
Yeah.
Franklin Delano Roosevelt.
FDR, yeah.
Yes.
That's when they had the pool downstairs. And then they converted that to a bowling alley. and then it was converted to a tennis court. Now it's back to a bowling alley.
Yeah. Do you know
Or
who
basketball court.
first initiated the bowling alley?
No.
Richard Nixon.
Oh, it was Richard's Tricky Dick's bowling alley.
Ricky Dick. I gotta roll the ball. I have to roll the ball.
I can't have a square side because it can't be wrong or right. It just has to go.
That's right. And Thomas Jefferson changed the wording of the Declaration of Independence from the pursuit of property to the pursuit of happiness.
Oh,
I think
I did
that's
not know
interesting.
that.
I didn't know that either. This is the first time I've read that. Yeah, from the pursuit of property. Can you imagine if it was today, if we were entitled to the pursuit of property? Wow.
There
That
wouldn't
would
be
be
a
ugly.
there wouldn't be a
That would
open
be
piece of
ugly.
public land anywhere.
Nope, it would be ugly. It would be very
Yeah,
ugly. He was a smart
man.
guy.
Very to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Have you guys ever read any of the stuff? I think I talked to you about this to you, Janice,
Yes.
when we were having dinner about the actual Constitution and how it was written, and not only the Constitution is how it was written, but the Federalist Papers.
Right.
And to read some of that, I mean, I had an opportunity just recently to go ahead through some stuff, and I to read Hamilton. Have you ever read anything that Hamilton wrote?
I
on the
have not.
Federalist
I will be
Papers?
honest. I have not.
You-
But I do have
gotta-
that, the Federalist Papers. I do have that.
Yeah.
I'm going to read.
You need to go ahead
On
and
your
actually
recommendation.
read
I
that.
just happened to have it in our shop, so there you
Yeah,
go.
you need to go ahead and read the ones. He was probably responsible out of all of them that were done. He was probably responsible for most. But also John Jay was involved in there as well, and there was a lot of different opinions that they had, and then you had the anti-federalists as well. Very, very, very interesting as far some of the things. John Quincy Adams, again, brilliant as well. And to see some of the writings that he put in there for the Federalist Papers that really were the basis of the Constitution as we know it today. So, real interesting stuff, and I love
So-
this, and that's why it's going to lead great to
I know.
our guest
I
that
know.
we have today.
Do you
Chris
know?
Formant.
Yes, 1 second. Do you know that the day might be cursed? Do you know the two that died on that day? John Adams and Thomas Jefferson both died on July 4th. One on July 4th, on the same day. It says 1826. Yeah,
Wow,
yeah. Spooky.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
They dueled.
They dueled.
They-
Dueled to see who.
Neither
I wonder
one.
what time.
Oh, do you know why? Oh, fact. Do you know why in the Old West and on everywhere there was duels, that it was always held at high noon?
No, I don't. I've always been curious about that.
Because that way the sun could not be in either person's eyes.
Oh, that's
And they couldn't
perfect.
claim.
Yes, that makes sense.
That makes a lot of sense.
It
to be quite
does.
honest with you.
Yeah. Sorry, Basil. I butted in. You were going to talk about Chris Formant.
No, it's okay. Butt in any time. Evidently, it's a pinch of Janice, so I don't have a problem.
Could be. That's all right.
No,
Just giving you a bad
no,
time.
That's actually, I would have said that too. That was the sun was at the highest peak at that time, and that was pretty interesting. I love trivia questions like that. Even the people who are driving in Reno and those who are listening right now are going, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
Hey, quick,
We all
before,
should have duels at high noon.
before we go to break, you were talking
Yeah.
about the Federalist Papers. Out of the 85, Hamilton wrote 51,
Right?
James Madison 29, and John Jay 5.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, John Jay was ill at that time, but Madison was the one who was pretty cool. But listen, folks, we got to get back. That's great. Thanks for checking that out. It's time, again, we got a word from our sponsors. We'll be right back with a pinch of basil. Stay tuned.
Are you shy and don't want to talk on the air? Text us your questions or comments to 775-237-2266. Now back to the show.
Oh, we are indeed back with a pinch of basil. Don't forget, I am streaming this live on Facebook. You can also listen on the TuneIn app. That's right, or on any phone device. Once you have the app, just search America Matters. If you are on your computer, go to americamatters.us. If you want to comment, go to my Basil Fans page on Facebook. That's BASILE FANS. Go to that page. If you have any questions for our wonderful guests, Chris, and we're gonna wind up talking about Chris in a second. But if you have any wonderful questions for him, we're going to be sure to take it. And you can call us at 844-790-8255, or you can also text. Janice, give them that number just one more time.
It is 775-237-2266. And I'm getting word that we might be silent, Craig?
Well, we
Maybe?
can't even hear Craig.
Yeah, I know.
No, not that I'm
No?
aware
Okay.
of.
I had Ray told me that we were silent, so I just asked him again. He hasn't responded yet. So,
I'm seeing audio on the meters going out to the
okay.
world, and
Well,
I'm
then hopefully we're good.
hearing you guys
Sorry,
on
I
the
just
air.
wanted
So
to make sure before we started with Chris.
Absolutely. Chris Formant, I'm gonna go to your bio real quick because I was reading this and I was so impressed. A student of history, a former top executive of a multi-billion-dollar global business, and now technology company CEO. He has debuted novel Bright Midnight, received lavish praise, and has been dubbed the Da Vinci Code for rock and roll fans. In the book, Formant created a mystery in which he has reimagined the deaths of rock icons as murders. Chris splits his time between Baltimore, Maryland, and is it Sedona, Arizona?
Sedona, Arizona.
Beautiful.
Right.
For more information, please go to Chris Formant, and that's ChrisFormant.com. And we're going to be talking about this newest wonderful book that just came out. And listen, I'm very, very close to Baltimore because my dad jumped ship there. So,
wow.
That's why.
And my 3 kids live in Brooklyn, so I'm close to New York City.
Oh, beautiful.
And I worked in New York City for a number of years.
Oh, lovely, man. Let me ask you a question, Chris. You said you're Greek, and not to sidetrack or anything, but I always get excited when I hear Greeks on the air with us. Where's your family from in Greece?
Sparta.
Good.
I took 23andMe. I was always told I was 100% Spartan because it went the lineage, but I'm 97% Southern Greek. So, and the other 3%, just a smattering.
Well,
the original name when my grandfather and his brother came to Ellis Island was Fruscianotis. So, and they wouldn't let him off the island at that time without changing the name. How the hell they came up with Formant, I have no idea. I think someone just told them that.
I think someone said, we got to format that name a little bit differently. And they said, you know what?
That's probably what happened.
Let's right. So just
probably what happened.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of funny because, a lot of people have that last name of Poulos, Poulos. Right. Which was always the secondary name, like Mavropoulos. Right. It could have been whatever. And Poulos, I always tell people, it's Smith in Greek. So, everyone is like that. Chris, I first of all, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for coming on. When I was reading through this, I was kind of excited because, I love history. And I love, Revolutionary War history as well. And the one thing I never knew about the Maryland 400. Can you give us a little brief rundown?
Yeah. Let me. It's kind of serendipitous as to how I even found out about this. About 5 years ago, when I was finishing up my previous book, and it was about to go into editing, and I stumbled upon about a 1-paragraph announcement in the paper announcing a wreath-laying ceremony in Prospect Park in Brooklyn in honor of the bravery and heroism of a Maryland regiment that served in the Battle of Brooklyn on August 27th, 1776. And it was captioned, "The Maryland 400 Who Saved America." I'd never heard of these guys. And so I did what you would do, any of us would do. I Googled them, and all of a sudden, this whole story, little bits and random pieces of this whole story that of a suicide mission of 400 young men up against about a 20,000 person British Army, a suicide mission that bought Washington and the Continental Army the time to escape. If they had not done that, Washington most certainly would have been captured, his leadership captured, and about half the army destroyed. The revolution almost certainly would have been over that day. And this has been lost in history. Basile, it was compared to the Spartans at the Battle of Thermopylae at that time, and they
Right.
compared it to the 300 Spartans, um, and it was celebrated for a number of for about 100 years afterwards, and then it was lost. I mean, no one knows about it. Even Maryland, they don't know about it.
They should actually wind up going ahead putting some type of uh, a statue up for them, because what they did to be able to do that. I mean, hell, can you imagine if they weren't there? The country that was we know today.
There's a little monument. There's a monument that's in Prospect Park, kind of tucked in the woods, that the Sons of the American Revolution dedicated about 100 years after the event. But that's it's really it's a stunning story, and I was lucky to stumble upon it.
I mean, the research that you did on this book, I mean, how did you go ahead and find out about all these, I mean, you can Google anything, that's true, but you still had to go ahead and painstakingly go through all this research to create this story.
Well, what I found, that's true. And what I found was, and I read up everything and bought every book that I could, but there just wasn't that much. And much of it contradicted itself. So I was lucky enough to be introduced to some of the executives at the Army War College in Carlisle, Pennsylvania, and they had and they gave me access to their archives. I don't live that far from the Library of Congress, so it was easy to get there. West Point helped out, the Maryland State Archivist, some of the organizations in Brooklyn, but it still was insufficient and contradicted itself. And so I chose at that time to write a historic fiction, much like Killer Angels, and not a history book, because it was just, I was going to have to create a story around this where there was just little bits and pieces of facts that were lying around.
That's unbelievable. And now you have in this, you have two main characters that I saw. Right. And I guess they were best friends or close friends, which was a white revolutionary, I guess, soldier, if you will, and then also a black one.
Teenager.
It was a kid. And then along with a black one who was evidently a free slave who followed him.
Yeah, what I found out, there are two things. One, when I started to write this, I reversed course early on, because most of the time when people write historic fictions or histories, it's seen through the eyes of the leaders or, some adults. And teenagers fight all wars. Young people fight all wars. So I wanted to reverse this, because I'd never seen anything in the Revolutionary War that was seen through the eyes of the young combatants, and I wanted to tell it through the eyes of these guys. I also uncovered in my research that there had been at least three, in looking at pension records for this regiment, at least three African Americans. And this has gotten a lot of buzz in the African American community for this. And so there were African Americans in this regiment as well, some free, some slaves. And I wanted to tell a story through their eyes and what motivated them to enlist, but more importantly, what would motivate kids to go on a suicide mission. And for sure, it wasn't taxes. It was something else. It was something else driving them. And that's kind of the story that I wanted to tell, their transformation from, why they enlisted, their transformation from happy-go-lucky teenagers to these warrior patriots that, when you look at history, this was probably the first large, it was the largest battle of the Revolutionary War, larger than Yorktown, and one of the bloodiest, but it's been lost in history. And more importantly, what's been lost is this suicide mission. I can't find anything in American history prior to that where a mass number of people sacrificed themselves for the virtue of liberty.
And that's too amazing. But I love when you say happy-go-lucky teenagers.
They were.
Back in the 1776 or whatever at that time, these kids were working the fields at age 3. So
yeah.
you sit there and you really wonder about that. Craig, I don't have a clock on me right now, so if you can do me a favor and blast the clock on me so I know how much time we have left. Thank you, brother. About 49 seconds. I knew we were getting down to that. Chris, you're going to be sticking around for the last portion, but I have so many more questions I got to ask you, especially the Baltimore area. I love that. Is that where you live in that area still? In that area?
I'm here part of the time and part of the time in Arizona. When I was an executive with a large company, I was in New Jersey. So I was a New Jersey resident and New York resident for a long time. I'm in Baltimore right now, and I sort of toggle back and forth.
Beautiful. Yeah. Hold on hold that thought for a second. We got to do that sponsor thing, but we're going to be right back. If you have any questions, post or give us a call. Stay right here on A Pinch of Basile with your host, me, Basile.
Now back to the show.
Oh, we are indeed back for the fourth segment. So glad you can join us on A Pinch of Basile. We've been having some fun. We're here with my very special guest. Thank you so much, Chris, for joining us. Thanks so much for joining us on Facebook. And don't forget, all of you, you can call or text too. Now, we've been talking to Chris Formant. And Chris, I have people who are educators and those who are in the world of academia who study history as well. I want them to feel free to call us. And Janice, one more time, please, for that phone number and that text number, please.
Sure. You can call us at 844-790-8255 or 775 for text 237-2266.
Thanks, Janice. And one more time, Chris, you and I were talking off the Skype air, and I want to make sure that our fans hear because you were so rudely interrupted by us going back to the show. Tell us about what you're doing with Time.
Yeah, well, this Thursday, it should be out by 9 a.m. I've written a byline. It'll be under my name for Time, called and it's coming out July 4th. Obviously, The Boys Who Saved America. And we've been working with it. I've been working with them on it for a couple months, and they're pretty excited, and I'm pretty excited because, this is an opportunity they have 40 some odd million, subscribers and unique visitors, and so it's an opportunity to really get this story out there, and get more and more people to hear about it.
Chris, let me ask you a question, and thanks for that information. Hopefully, my viewers and listeners will jump on that. What are you hoping that the readers are going to take away from this book?
Well, first, I wanted to make sure that this story was told.
Event is free to
But history books can be kind of boring, and especially for young adults. And so I wanted to tell the story, this astonishing story, but through the eyes of two young men, two kids, teenagers, who fought it, and the emotions they went through, and what would drive them to sacrifice themselves, for the virtue of liberty. And it was a different era then. So I want to make sure that the story's told. I want to make sure that when people look at it, people tell me they cry at the end of it, because they can't, when you think about all the divisive, rhetoric, today, they can't imagine, it's hard to imagine the purity of the devotion of these people that sacrificed themselves. The guy who led, Colonel Mordecai Gist, who led this regiment, he was such a fanatic. He named his two sons Independent and States. No bullshit. Independent and State. These guys were fanatics about this, and they thought that they were doing God's work here.
I agree. I think they were doing God's work. I'll tell you what, because fighting, no one really understands what freedom truly is until it's taken away from you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, these were the original guys, this regiment that sacrificed themselves for 400. I mean, only a handful of them walked away for liberty.
That's amazing.
It
That's
is
truly amazing.
That's
It's
incredible.
Yeah.
Janice, do you have any questions? I'm sorry.
No,
I've
I've been so
up.
busy conversing here. I'm sorry. So you go ahead. You're doing a great job.
Okay, go ahead, Chris. You want to say something else? I'm
Well,
sorry.
I think that, I mean, being of Greek descent and of Spartan descent, obviously, when I started studying it and they compared them to the Spartans at Thermopylae and what they did, I mean, it was something I felt like I had to do this, that I was brought to this story. When I was growing up in a Greek household with grandparents, parents, we had three generations under one roof. I was, all the stories of ancient Sparta and these, citizen soldiers, was just drilled into me. So this was sort of it felt like a natural to do this. And, as I think I mentioned to you earlier, I've been lucky enough to get a film option on this it's been optioned by Greg Feinberg, who's the Emmy Award-winning producer of Deadwood, Big Little Lies, Sharp Object, Twin Peaks, and so I'm hoping that this could be made into a mini series, sometime in the future, because I think that I'm getting a great reaction. I'm getting lots of fan letters from kids as young as 7 years old up to college kids. One kid did his Eagle Scout project on this. Another college kid wrote his honors thesis on it. And teachers have thanked me. African Americans have thanked me. And when the book debuted, it debuted as the #1 young adult historical novel.
Wow.
And I had never intended on that, because I was just trying to write I didn't intend that for the audience. But what I found, Basile, is that most schools and middle schools now in most states in the country, unless there's some reason for them other than what the pure curriculum states, most schools start American history at the Civil War, and they really don't know. And so the same kind of kids that are reading my book and getting all excited about it are the same kids that know, rhyme and verse to Hamilton, but they're not taught this in school. And I think it's a crime if we're not teaching those fundamental underpinnings of what created this great country.
Right. And the sad thing is, I think the great thing about what Hamilton has done was to bring kids to learn the history a little bit more of how this country literally got started. And
Absolutely.
It's amazing how it came to be, where it's a rap type of a Broadway show that came in to discuss the actual foundations of what this country was built on. So a lot of people, you don't get that, but it's so cool to see the kids get into it.
Oh,
because
yeah.
I even asked my daughter, has the history teacher taught you this? No. Has the history teacher taught you that? No. We discussed the Revolutionary War one day. Really?
Wow.
One day?
Wow.
And I'm like, okay. And then I'll never forget, because I have my degree in Soviet politics. And I wound up discussing this with this history teacher who knew absolutely nothing about history.
Wow.
And I'm like, and you're grading my kid? And I think what you're doing, if you can get these kids to line up and read this, don't tell them it's good for you. Let them find it on their own and find out the spirit and what it's true like to be a true leader at that young age, to be able to go ahead, not necessarily for these kids to lay down their lives, but to see what it took to go ahead and actually do what they did to help us give us the country that we have today.
Yeah. The kids love it. Sons of the American Revolution gave me an award for the book, just because of, you would think that some of the historical societies and some of these, would be so interested in protecting whatever definition of history they might have, but they're excited because they know that people get excited and the kids get excited. Anything that gets people excited about history, particularly, that all of these historical societies and organizations are very supportive of. So exactly the opposite of what I thought was going to happen. I thought that I would get challenged on it, but no, they're very embracing of it.
Do they know exactly where the battle was in the landmass area?
Yes. It was in the Gowanus area. It didn't look like it was. Gowanus was a swamp at that time. There were a couple of things. You really can't tell where the hills were. There's a hill that's in Prospect Park called Battle Hill. So it took place all around there, Brooklyn Heights. I mean, they escaped out of Brooklyn Heights, but it was a swamp. And I'll tell you one story. When I was first trying to garner some support, a friend introduced me, made an entree for me at the Army War College. You had the commandant, you had their chief historian. This is the guy, the commandant had just come back from leading the troops in Afghanistan. And I'm explaining to them this story. And the general, turns to the chief historian. He says, "Hey, is this true?" He says, "Well, Chris is a writer. He's exaggerating it a bit, but yeah, it's generally true." And I said, "General, you know what the saddest part of all this is? That these may be the most famous yet most forgotten citizen soldiers in the history of the United States, and they're scattered in unmarked graves, deep below the streets of Brooklyn. They don't know where they are. They thought they were. They thought they knew about a year ago, but they don't know where they are. They're just scattered under the streets." And he started tearing up. He said, "Chris, whatever you need, we're going to help you."
How cool is that?
Yeah, it's very cool.
How cool. Janice, do you want to say something?
I just wanted to let you know that we're just under a minute, so we're going to have to wrap. I'm sorry, Chris.
No, it's okay,
Great
Chris.
story,
Thank you so
and
much.
the listeners are really enjoying what you're talking about.
And then what we're going to do, Chris, I'm going to reach out to you. There's something that I may want to share with you afterwards, but we'll talk. I'm going to have my publicist get a hold of your people, and we'll talk. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much, Chris. Thank you so much for the wonderful interview. You were great reminders. Folks, listen, every week on Tuesday from 6 to 7 New York City time, we can be heard all around the world on AmericaMatters.us. If you're using the TuneIn app, just search America Matters and be sure to keep it on us. And questions, whatever you might got, for God's sake, go to Facebook, on Instagram, Twitter at Basile Fans. When, listen, you can get a hold of us anytime. I love you guys. Thank you, Chris. We'll see y'all later.
Thank you.